Joining us now to discuss, America's accountant, Dan Geltrude. Dan, thanks for being back with us. It's great to see you.
Thank you.
Of course. So we know there are a lot of factors stacking up against the U.S. economy: rising interest rates, tight lending standards, and political uncertainty in D.C. What do you think of Jerome Powell's forecast of being able to skirt a recession, and what economic indicators support his view?
I think it's going to be really, really tough for Jerome Powell to do what he's saying. Look, everybody would love to see a soft landing here, right? So you're able to get inflation under control without causing the economy to go into a recession. Here is the challenge. We have been raising interest rates all year long, or for almost the past year, and we are not seeing inflation being tamed at this point. So he's going to have to continue to raise interest rates. We got a pretty strong job number, which means that the jobs market remains hot, which means that you're still going to see inflation at elevated levels, as you alluded to before. You go in the grocery store and purchasing any of the necessities that you need, well, it's costing more. So I think we have a way to go before inflation is under control, which means more economic pain for everyone.
Yeah, I sadly think you are right about that. Now, meanwhile, the IMF recently warned of growing debt vulnerabilities, particularly corporate debt and leveraged loans. They also point out that the rising interest rates and stricter Fed policies could ultimately cause mass defaults. What do you make of this assessment, and can we battle these weak points?
Yeah, this is really a tough situation that we have here, because in order for the economy to continue to move along at a good pace, businesses and people need to be able to borrow money. Specifically businesses, right? You need to be able to have access to capital in order to grow and meet demand. Now, based upon what's happened in the banking system in the last few months, I think that we're going to see more regulations that's going to make it tougher to be able to borrow money. And that's one of the things that can really slow down the economy. Now, the other side of this is that Americans are building up more credit card debt than they ever have before. We're at record levels. On top of that, interest rates on credit cards are also at record levels. So I don't know what people are thinking exactly in terms of how much debt they think they can accumulate. It's not like the federal government where we can just continue to print money and go along our happy way here. People have to realize that their debts are going to come due, and the deeper that they go into debt, the more trouble that they're going to have somewhere down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And touching on the debt crisis, Janet Yellen says we have to raise the limit. And I understand why, but I also want some accountability here. Why is the government allowed to go over budget no matter what that means for the average American? And how do you ultimately see this playing out?
The way I see it playing out is that the debt limit will be raised because there's no other choice here. We can't have a situation where the U.S. defaults on its borrowings and what it needs to pay bills. So that's completely out of the question, and everybody knows it. But here's how the game ends up being played. We have both sides going back and forth saying, I want this, I want that. And everybody is trying to look like the responsible party. Now, let me tell you how this is going to end. It'll be right down to the last minute. They'll increase the spending limit. Both sides will end up spending even more, and then both sides will try to spin it as to how they did this great thing for the country and try to take a victory lap. Both sides of the aisle, and I want to be clear, both sides of the aisle have been completely reckless with spending. And quite frankly, at some point in time, that bill or those bills are going to become due. And when they are, we're going to feel a lot of hurt.
Yeah, I think you're right about that one, Dan. Now, I want to switch over to the U.S. housing market. We're seeing low inventory across the board. People don't want to sell for many reasons, one of them being the high interest rates and buying a new home, which is driving up the cost of homes and ultimately forcing people to keep renting. What do you think it'll take for the housing market to finally heat up again?
Well, I think the interest rates at some point have to come back down because, as you pointed out there, when people are thinking about selling and they're going to move to a new home and they're going to have to take a mortgage out if that's the case, well, that mortgage is going to be a lot more expensive than what they currently have. So people are staying put. Now, by people not putting their house on the market, what you have is a limited amount of inventory. That scarcity is causing prices to go up. So we're kind of stuck in the mud here related to this. But I think the key point is that if interest rates start to come down, you'll see the real estate market start to get better and perhaps more affordable. But until that happens, I don't see it.
Oof, let's hope that happens soon. Now, the latest major company to file for bankruptcy is Jenny Craig. I believe they had mass layoffs about 10 years ago, but they were hanging in for a while, and now it seems like the final blow to their business was COVID restrictions. What does the closure of the physical store locations have to say about the border retail landscape?
Well, I think it says a lot about the times that we're currently living in. I mean, Jenny Craig was hugely successful for close to 40 years, and now we have a situation where they're gone. It's over. All the people who were employed there, no job anymore. So what happened? Well, Jenny Craig is set up as a brick and mortar shop where people go in there and they pick up certain foods related to helping them lose weight. Well, the market is changing. People are not necessarily going out and shopping anymore. That's number one. And number two is the weight loss market is changing, and it seems to be trending towards, hey, there may be a pill that can do this for you. So why do you have to have these foods which maybe are not your favorite? So I think as it pertains to Jenny Craig, the market has changed dramatically and they were not able to make the adjustments they needed to.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. It's sad to see, but I guess we are moving into a new era, so we'll see how it evolves over time. Dan, thanks so much for being with us today. Please let people know where they can find you and follow you for more.
Always, you can find me at geltrude.com. Thank you.